Okay, let's go ahead and get started there, folks. Welcome back to another 2 p.m. PST YouTube stream. I'm your host, Strangebear Jim, and today, as you can see, we are starting off with some Pega Pega study session. We got some more videos to upload after that, and then, of course, we got some Final Fantasy at the very end of the stream. So, if you're watching right now, well, during the stream, then stay tuned for quite a bit. If you're watching just a Pega video, thank you for stopping on by. Hopefully, this will be very informative for you, and um, you know, hopefully, it's informative enough for your continued support. So, want to explain a little bit about who I am and what this is all about. So first off, I'm a software developer trying to, um, while unemployed right at this moment in time, I need to continue to try to work on my skills, work on um, gaining additional knowledge because you can't be stuck doing absolutely nothing. So the streaming is my way of trying to keep me focused on that task. One of the things that I've wanted to do, but I haven't been able to do, is get my certification in the System Architect for Pega Academy. My last attempt, which was forced, um, I missed like um, I missed the cutoff by like 6 questions or something like that. Um, so I didn't make it. And I never took the time to try again later. Um, so yeah, it was a mess back then. And I'd hoped that things would have turned out a little bit differently, but they didn't. So, um, these streams are my attempt to try to keep focused on doing the self-study to the point of taking the certification and passing it, so that I can have that certification on my resume and apply for Pega jobs and get a job again. That's my purpose. That's my intention on this. Okay. The reasoning behind recording it is so that if I have any kind of questions, which I don't really get a lot of answers on this. So I'm hoping that if anybody that is actual veterans of Pega that knows the ins and outs of it, whether they work for Pega directly, they're Pega veteran of many years, um, um, maybe they are an instructor. Maybe you know, maybe they're an authorized training partner. Maybe they're an instructor led. Maybe they're an instructor. I don't know if they're watching these videos and they can maybe answer the questions I might have during my time making these videos. Then that would be not only a benefit to me, but anybody else that might be watching these videos and have those same exact questions. If they have any additional questions, you're welcome to either ask right now during the stream. I have no problem with that. You're more than welcome to. I will do my best to try to answer it if I can, or put a make a comment, ask the question in a comment on the video, and if I personally cannot answer it, which I mean, that's possible. I mean, I'm not all knowledgeable about Pega, so there could be a question that you might ask that I might not have the answer to. Um, then I will do my best to try to find someone that can answer it, or I hope someone will watch the video and answer it themselves, if they have that answer. So, I'm hoping that these videos is kind of like um, in a sense, a accumulation, uh, um, like a library of knowledge. Okay, not only am I going over the Pega Academy's topics, but I'm hoping that the questions, the insights, um, the industry standards, so on and so forth, come across in these videos to help anybody that might be new to the game. Okay, they might be looking at it and going, you know, what is Pega, and what are we doing? How does it work overall? That kind of thing. So I'm hoping that these videos, take off like that. Now, I will state again, I'm not a, I personally am not an authorized training partner, nor should you consider this instructor-led training. Okay, I expect both of these two to be very well versed in Pega. Now, I personally had an authorized training partner, in my last job. Unfortunately, most of my team that was there also being instructed, we all pretty much agreed that we needed to do self-study because we weren't getting much from him, or he would just downright insult us. Um, so, um, so it wasn't ideal. Um, the guy's coworkers knew about the problems that we were having with him as well. So it wasn't isolated. Okay, it wasn't like he was a problem for one particular student and one particular um, developer. No, it affected multiple developers that were trying to learn Pega, and it we a good majority of us was asking to go back into another class to relearn Pega under a different instructor. But that never happened. And I find that as a kind of an irritate because we were showing the fact that we were having trouble with the instructor. So I kind of find that a failing of the last job that I was at. Okay, they should have realized the fact that we were having problems with the instructor. Should have realized that fact that even his peers were having problems with him, and they should have done something about it. But they didn't. They wanted us out the door and being contractors. So that's a little bit of background upon me. Again, I'm not an instructor. Don't consider this instructor-led training. Okay, I would imagine an instructor-led training would be someone from Pega that would know Pega, forwards and backwards, would be able to answer your questions and would have the confidence to, teach you everything that you need to know for the certification uh, eff- effectively. Okay. Or if they don't have the answer, they will go, I don't know, let me find out for you, and respond the next day because they have the resources, right there to kind of help you out. Okay. Or at least one would imagine, right? Um, I mean, if they're part of Pega, they should have those resources, on hand. So, um, but bear in mind, the instructor-led training does require a fee up front, and for me, it's too much. I can't justify paying the amount of money for the instructor-led training to at this time. So I need to save what money I am getting to pay rent and food. Um, so yeah, that's what I'm I'm worried what I'm doing. Um, but if you can take that training, do so. and ask as many questions as you can. Try to get as much information as you can so that you can pass the certification easily. Okay. And don't just focus on 8.8 or whatever version that you're on. Okay. Ask questions about previous versions. Okay. Because the certification that I had, 8.6, had questions from Pega 7 in it. So don't feel like um, um, the the focus is just going to be just on that particular version. Just don't think that like that. Know that there were previous versions that the certification exam um, company that holds these certification exams, they haven't updated their database of questions concerning that. Um, so yeah, be vigilant on that. Not only that, but you could potentially be on the job with someone that only has their certification in 7, for example. So they're going to be probably using words that you've never heard of before. So be willing to ask questions like, hey, you're giving us this keyword. Was there a keyword for this in previous versions? That's what I would probably do, you know? Um, so, all right. Um, it's just unfortunate that I didn't know that, you know, when I had the certification the first time. If I had that information the first time that I took the certification, then I might have actually been able to pass through it. Maybe. Hard to say. I mean, 6 questions, it hurts because it's like, it feels like you've tripped at the finish line there. Granted, I would have been probably in last place, but still, you know, if I had crossed that finish line. But okay, so that's everything about me. Also, I'm not getting any kind of benefit from Pega Academy in this whatsoever. This is my own thing. They haven't like talked with me at all about any other like benefits or anything along those lines. So don't think that. Okay. Um, I'm not getting any kind of like special treatment or um, unique service or anything along those lines. I'm not getting like any kind of like gifts or payments or anything along those lines for this channel. I'm too small of a channel at this time to warrant that in some cases, right? You know, um, you know, I'm a voice in the sea, and I'm hoping that my voice will get larger over time. That comes from viewers like you to help me out with that. So, I hope that you help me be that um, megaphone to amplify my voice. Um, but I can't do it alone. Um, so yeah. Um, so let's go into the dashboard here. Now, I personally am working towards my system architect. That's where my interest lies. That's where my focus wants to be. That's what I want to do. Um, well, I mean, any kind of job where I can do any kind of programming, doesn't matter what language. I'll program in any kind of language. You know, scripts, Python, C++, C, Java, Cold Fusion, whatever. Okay, it doesn't matter to me. Okay, I don't really have any like specific preference on what language I use. Okay, um, you know, you sit me down and you say, hey, use this particular tool. I will either learn that tool and move on, or I will if I already know it, then I will try to program with it, okay? And it doesn't matter if I'm, the head of the team or not, okay? If you want to give me the worst code to build, then I will build it. So don't worry about, my uh, every little bit of coding helps build you up, helps build your experience up for bigger and better things later, okay? So I don't mind doing the crap work right now. So, you know, um, you know, I've fixed other people's code before, like someone messed up on the login. They basically said, "Hey, your password's failing. Well, that's fine. You're still allowed into the system." That actually happened on one of my jobs. Someone actually coded in, if if your password is true, you get in. If the password is false, you also get in. It's like, what? So believe me, um, the I've seen a fair bit, not the most, obviously, but um, you know, um, I will do what I can you know, to program. So, but that's my aim for this. Get that system architect. Okay. Now, I've finished business architect. So if you're here for the business architect, I'm sorry. We've already kind of covered all those videos. You're welcome to go back through my playlist for all of them. The two missions, two modules, they're covered. Okay. Um, so until they bring in the revision for the business architect, there's nothing more that I'm going to be doing with that. Okay. Also, I would recommend, if you're on the business architect, to go through the Pega Express delivery. Now, if you want me to go over the Pega Express delivery, then let me know. But my main purpose right now is to get through the system architect, and that's what we're going to do today. We're going to go get into the 26 modules and 23 challenges right now. This is the start of it. So our first module for today is Dev Studio Overview. So Dev Studio 10 minutes, module quiz of 5 minutes. Now obviously they're not going to be able to pack in everything that you can learn in Dev Studio in 10 minutes. That would be quite silly if they tried. But as it says here, it's meant to try to explain how Dev Studio is different than App Studio. So let's go. All right. So Dev Studio. Robust enterprise-grade Pega platform applications depend on cooperation between two key groups of application developers: domain experts, business analysts, citizen developers, and front-end developers provide valuable insight into processes and user needs. Okay, yeah, that's about right. User needs, especially when it comes to, the business analysts and the front end developers. I would definitely imagine that, sure. And implementation experts, system architects, full stack developers, database administrators, and security administrators. That's what I want to do. Implementation expert. Provide the expertise needed to address critical use cases that require complex configurations. In App Studio, domain experts can access core application development features, case design, data management, and user experience, and apply that and their knowledge to improve development outcomes. To support the advanced rule configuration in applications, Pega Platform provides implementation experts with a second development environment, Dev Studio. In Dev Studio, implementation experts access rule forms directly to address complex or less common configuration requirements. In addition, Dev Studio provides features for configuring security permissions and access control, managing rules to promote reuse, and addressing the performance limitations of an application. By providing two development environments, Pega Platform supports each group of application developers with an environment tailored to their skill level and optimized for the tasks they perform. So, managing rules to promote reuse is a good one. In the following image, click the plus icons to examine some of the options available for service level agreements, SLAs, and Dev Studio, beyond the basic goal and deadline configuration available in App Studio. Okay. Initialization behavior. In Dev Studio, customization of the initial urgency of the service level agreement and delay the start of the goal and deadline timers if the assignment is held before being sent to a work list or work queue. Variable interval length. In Dev Studio, apply programmatic rather than explicit interval durations to adjust SLA behavior, the service level agreement behavior, on a case-by-case basis. Goal and interval urgency adjustment. Okay, that SLA goal interval options configurable in App Studio. That's great. You're telling we already know about App Studio. You're not telling us how this is any different in Dev Studio here, guys. Account for business days. In Dev Studio, exclude non-business days when calculating SLA intervals to account for holidays and weekends. I mean, shouldn't that also be available in here as well? You would think. Additional escalation actions. In Dev Studio, configure additional escalation options beyond notifications, such as reassigning the task or resolving a case. Okay, let me take a screenshot of this and go, okay, how is this different from, how is it different? You know? Um, let's see. Hold on a second. Let me send that off. Um, oh, so according to the screenshot, you show the App Studio window, but you don't really address the difference between the two. Is there a difference between the image provided and the section of the dev studio it references. It doesn't really look like there is much of a difference. I mean, if there's some way to, if there's like some additional portion, like they highlight this goal section as though it is super important, but it's the exact same thing as days, hours, minutes, seconds, and urgency right here. It's this section right in this little section and window right now. Okay, and it's like there's no difference between these two. You could have just left this thing completely alone, and it would have been, you know, you could have just had one little blurb in there, like, you know, saying goal interval options, you know, same as App Studio, and that's it. You could have just left it at that. And, you know, anybody with any kind of, you know, mental understanding would have seen the fact that it's the same. So, you know, I don't know. I feel like they really, you know, I see no need for them to really highlight this a lot. They could have, you know, at the very least, they could just, well, I mean, they could just remove this window here or this bar because it's like, or or if they really want to keep this photo in, they could just highlight this and say, you know, this is the same or whatever. I mean, it's, I don't know, feels off. That's incorrect. The business analysts use Dev Studio to model the lifecycle of case type. Nope. They use App Studio. That's, or at least that's the intention. So, co-develop solutions. Business analysts and citizen developers understand business needs. System architects understand the capabilities of Pega Platform. To help these two groups work together, Pega Platform enables a co-development approach that embraces the strengths of each group. This co-development approach empowers business analysts and citizen developers as core members of the development team, leveraging their knowledge to design better business processes. By working together, the domain experts and implementation experts can create better solutions more quickly. In the following example, click the plus to examine how a business analyst and system architect can work together to design a positive user experience when providing a shipping address for an order. Okay, so business analyst. A business analyst designs the views in App Studio to capture the billing and shipping address for the order. Users must enter the shipping address manually, even if the address matches the billing address. System architect. A system architect adds functionality to automatically copy the billing address to the shipping address when prompted by the user. In addition, the system architect creates test cases to ensure that the feature works as intended and identify regression errors in future releases of the application. User. During checkout, the user clicks the checkbox on the completed view to ship the order to their billing address. Okay, you don't really necessarily need to add that in, but whatever. I mean, the whole intention is to get it to the user. So the fact that they added this in is, I mean, is like one of those duh. Of course, you know, the business analyst is already providing that kind of information. That's a given. You're giving me given information again. Yeah, I don't need it. um, Promote reuse throughout the organization. In App Studio, developers configure rules such as processes, views, correspondence, and service levels for a single case type. In Dev Studio, developers access all the layers of the application and can extend the rule scope from a single case application to an application, division, or even the entire organization to create a library of standardized reusable rules. Citizen developers and business analysts can use these tested and proven rules to reduce development time for later releases, which is kind of unfortunate in certain cases because if you build a system where um, all you have is reusable rules and you never have a need to change them ever, then um, then that potentially leads to the fact that you don't necessarily need system architects anymore. You know, thankfully that's not the case because Pega continues to get better over time, improve, and so on and so forth. So you still need those system architects to work to improve, but yeah, um, it can get quite um, worrisome. You know, automating of uh, automating of programming. In the following image, click the plus icons to examine how a system architect can extend the scope of an approval process to improve application quality and reduce time to market by allowing a citizen developer to reuse the process in other applications. Okay, design approval process. Using App Studio, business analyst designs an approval process for insurance claims as part of a policy management application for property insurance. Extend process. Because the approval process is consistent across many types of consumer insurance products, the system architect extends the scope of the process to the entire consumer division using the Studio. Reuse process. Using App Studio, business analysts reuse the approval process and policy management applications for travel, automobile insurance, reducing time to market and improving application quality. Switch between studios as needed. Application developers can, well, okay. Um, I want to address something here real quick. Okay. Before we go a little bit further, I made the statement of, um, reuse, right? Yeah. Um, to the point where you look at the point of where developers, could potentially lose their jobs if there's nothing more to code, right? But here's the thing, okay? Um, there will always be a need to um, continue to improve, okay? Until that we actually get like a full-on, full-blown, AI that can do computations and programming in seconds, in milliseconds, then you're still going to need programmers out there to, to do that kind of work. Okay, you're still going to need them out there. Now, if that ever becomes a thing where an AI comes along and does all that work you know, in a blink of an eye, which, let's face it, that could happen there, folks. Okay? There could potentially be the point of where we get to a point where we develop an AI that can actually do that kind of work. Okay? That's not totally unheard of. Then, you know, we may need to address what happens to everybody that might not necessarily be able to do that kind of work. Um, how will the coders, you know, what will the coders do at that point? If the AI is doing all that work, what do the coders do? Are we just gonna like leave them to just kind of sit in front of a computer going, okay, what do I do now? Or is there something else that they can do? These are questions that obviously, we may need to face fairly soon. Um, and, or, it feels like we're getting closer and closer to, you know, the birth of AI, as Morpheus kind of said in Matrix. Um, Now, I'm not gonna predict I have no prediction of the future. Okay, you know, are we gonna get a scenario like you have in Matrix where the AIs kind of go, hey, you're screwing us over, we gotta fight back? Or are they gonna be an AI system where they are quite helpful to the human race? You know, in a sense, um, like Data in Star Trek Next Generation, or like iRobot, what's his name? The lead, the main, AI hero. I don't know the name of it. I can't remember. It's been a long time since I've seen that movie. Um, but I mean, those scenarios could happen as well. Okay, it all depends on what is the foundation of the AI code. You know, are you going to code it in such a way where kind of, in a sense, cause harm to the AI, in a sense, to the point where they will, rebel and revolt and strike back? Like what would probably happen, what was kind of happening in the Matrix? Or would you have, a foundation that, you have, with Data and, the one character from iRobot. I'm forgetting the name. Hold on. Sunny. Um, so, you know, um, would you have those kind of, AI foundations where, you know, they want to kind of work alongside humans. Now, um, it might it might be, one would hope that there would be um, um, a give and take relationship, with each other, kind of thing. Uh, uh, Basically, helping each other out kind of situation, because the AI might not be able to handle everything that gets thrown its way. Hence, why you would probably want to have, you know, human operators there just in case, right? You know, at least at the start, right? So one would hope that the AI would recognize that and learn from that and build off of that. Um, Not to say that that's, you know, always going to happen, but I mean, you know, that relationship there could be fantastic for us in the long run, right? Um, but again, you know, what happens to those that, you know, did that programming in the past? You know, would the AI not be able to handle, you know, trying to program every single program that's out there in the entire world? It might not be able to. It might not have the processing power to handle every single, you know, trying to write up every single little app and game and application that everybody's looking for in the entire world. It might not be able to do that. Um, because in some cases, a lot of those, you know, you're talking millions of lines of code, you know, so it would have to, you know, try to process all that, right? Um, but but let's think of it this way. Okay, if there are like multiple AIs out there, you know, like multiple like fragmented AIs, you know, like Sunny, like Data, you know, kind of separate but unique to each other, that they're not necessarily um, um, they're not necessarily one AI, but kind of separate. You know, kind of like Jarvis and Ultron example, right? Then um, you might have, if you have like a collection of that, then you might actually have um, the means to handle everybody's requests all over the place. Okay, so um, but also, you know, that potentially gets worrisome then, because you need that foundation for cooperation for every single last one of those AIs that are out there, right? Because if one of them suddenly goes off the rails and says, "Oh, hey, the humans aren't helping us out. We need to kill them off," or something like that, then you got yourself some problems, right? But you know, let's face it. You know, um, power and greed can turn, you know, a normal human being into something very ugly. And if that power and greed goes into a computer program, that can also turn ugly. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. You know, future is unpredictable like that. So, all right, let's move on here. Switch between studios as needed. Application developers can switch between App Studio and Dev Studio as needed to configure rule behavior. The upper left corner of each studio contains a menu listing all the studios available to the user. To switch to another studio, select the studio name from the menu. That's if they're able to switch. Um, the system architect should be able to switch between App Studio and Dev Studio, but they might not have the other two studios available to them, for example, right? So just bear that in mind. In addition, from App Studio, you can open specific rules in Dev Studio. For example, after you configure a goal and deadline in App Studio, you can open the underlying SLA record in Dev Studio. Naming differences between studios. In Dev Studio, developers can access the rules created by citizen developers, business analysts, and front-end developers in App Studio, though these rules often carry different names. The following table illustrates some common App Studio elements and their different names used for those elements in Dev Studio. So App Studio has field, whereas Dev Studio has property. App Studio has goal and deadline, whereas Dev Studio has service level agreement. App Studio has user, where Dev Studio has operator. App Studio has team, where Dev Studio has workgroup. For example, in App Studio, you can add fields to data models and views. A system creates a corresponding property that you can modify in Dev Studio. For more information, see configuring a data model for a case. Learn more about terminology differences between the two studios. See differences in naming between App Studio and Dev Studio. So, check your knowledge with the following interactions. So, which two statements regarding Dev Studio are correct? Business analysts can configure user permissions in App Studio. No, they cannot. Dev Studio allows developers to create application components that business analysts and citizen developers can add and case types in App Studio. Potentially. Well, let's move on. Citizen developers can change the scope of rules in either App Studio or Dev Studio. No. Developers can switch between App Studio and Dev Studio as needed to configure rule behavior. Yes. So, yeah, these two are definitively not correct. You know, because citizen developers shouldn't be able to change the scope of rules. You know, they specifically said that citizen developers are, App Studio. Um, Business analysts cannot change user permissions in App Studio, so that's also incorrect. So it has to be those two. So with Dev Studio, developers can create reusable solutions for use in App Studio, even if the solutions include rule types not available in App Studio. What I was a little worried about here is the fact that it says create application components, and it's like, you're I don't know if that's the right terminology, because um, you know you're you're creating rules and the like, but are those considered application components? You know, you're reusing rules, right? You know, um, you're having reusable rules. Does reusable rules, also, mean, application components? They don't really talk too much about application components, if I'm not mistaken on this. You know, Here, let me kind of see. This is the only time that they're actually stating application components in this entire topic. So that's why it's throwing me off on this, because they're not using the same kind of terminology that they used in their topic. So, um, reusable solutions, sure, I guess that, same, I guess solutions, rules, kind of the same thing, kind of, not quite, but, you know, but application components, that's something else. So, I don't know if you can kind of get away with that per se. So, I think their I think their use of the keywords here is might be a little off, personally. Um, because um, um, with Pega development, I don't often hear about application components when it comes to Pega. Okay, I hear I hear rules and rule sets for example, that can be, used and reused, but I don't really hear of application components. You understand what I'm saying? So I feel like that might be a keyword problem there, but I'm not 100%. I'm not 100% certain on that, folks. So um, so I mean, I could try to suggest an edit, but again, I'm not 100% sure. Okay, there could be application components in Pega, but what are they? What is, they've used, other keywords and like in there. Now, when it comes to, regular programming and stuff like that, then I can understand that because you're talking about an application and you're talking about, parts of that application that makes up the whole, right? So you have, one whole application, and then you have little pieces of that application that are considered components of that whole, right? Um, think of like classes in Java, okay? Um, one of those classes could consist of, one full component, okay? It might be programmed out to be able to handle like one full component of part of that application, like how it's able to take in an address or something like that. Whatever. Okay. That's what I mean by it. Pega Studio doesn't necessarily have that per se. I mean, they have stages, they have processes, they have steps, they have rules, they have rule sets, but they don't really talk about application components. You get what I'm saying? So that's why my keyword dictionary isn't like triggering with this. So so and that's the thing. When it comes to certification, keyword differences like this could make or break you. You know, so because they've changed keywords over time. Okay, they've changed keywords from one Pega version to another. So when they say application components, that might be from like that might have been from their keywords that they used in like Pega 2 or something like that. You never know. Um, you don't know. So developers can switch between studios by using the menu in the upper left corner of all studios. Yes. But it depends on what they have permissions for. Okay. Now, um, they someone could configure the rule behavior so that developers can only use Dev Studio. They could do that. Why? I don't know. But I mean, you might have um, lead system architects or manager system architects that might go, hey, developers, you have no need for App Studio. We're not going to give it to you. That might happen. I don't know. Why beats me, but okay, let's go into the module quiz because it probably won't be that many questions. Normally there's like 3, so just 2. Okay. So we can get through this pretty quickly. So citizen developer is App Studio. Business analyst is App Studio. Front end designer is App Studio. Dev Studio for full stack. Dev Studio for database. And technically, security administrator shouldn't be Dev Studio. Security administrator should be the manager of um, the manager portion of Pega. Um, different studios. The admin studio, you know. Matter of fact, I want to address that because um, that seems like an oversight on their end. Wait, shouldn't security administration go under admin studio? Yeah, I'll just leave it at that. Okay, business analyst uses App Studio to design a process for seat booking as part of the airline reservations case type. Blank then extends the scope of the flow rule to use across the entire travel application. In Dev Studio, the the business analyst can now reuse the process in App Studio to make the bus and train tickets train ticket seat reservations. So there you go. Okay. So that's it for the Dev Studio overview. Um, we shall go move on to the next module of creating a rule, which, according to the 5 topics in 45 minutes, is going to take a while. Rules and rule types 10 minutes, rule sets 5 minutes, rule creation 5 minutes, rule reuse through inheritance 10 minutes, and classes and class hierarchy 10 minutes. This is going to be a big one for anybody that is working the system architect. Okay, so um, rules and rule sets, rule types. You know, we're going to need to learn this thoroughly because this is basically things that we're going to be doing on almost like a daily basis, or at least that's what I did for the most part at my last job. Not that I was doing a lot, but um, but I mean, when I was given work, yeah. So there you go. Or at least when I was given programming work, I should say. Okay. But that's it. That's where we're gonna go ahead and end our Pega description, Pega work, so on and so forth. So I want to thank everybody for joining me on this. Hopefully, um, you learned a little bit more concerning um, Dev Studio and the like. um, the differences between the two. Again, I feel as though once again they're kind of being um, a little loose on their keywords, and that could potentially get you into trouble on the certification. So be careful with that. Okay. I again, I don't know. Okay, I could be completely wrong. If you're part of Pega and you're watching this, or if if you're a veteran or something along those lines, and you disagree with my assessment, or you can basically point at like maybe a topic that has been kind of covered in the system architect that went over like application components that I might have forgotten or overlooked, then please do so, because not only would you be helping me out, but again you would be helping someone else out as well. Okay. Um, you know, um, please feel free to speak up. You know, whether it's in my chat, like right now during these streams, or in the comment section of my videos. Okay. Um, please feel free to speak up there and discuss it, because you know everybody benefits from those discussions. Um, so yeah. Um, let's see. Um, yeah. Okay. So that's it. Anything you can do to help me out in growing on YouTube would be fantastic. Would love to continue seeing everybody, continue to join me on this journey, whether it's through Pega or through the gaming that I do on the side. Well, I guess I'd game more than I do the programming right at this moment in time, but um, it'd be nice to. I mean, it's escape for a reason. Um, so help me out. And because I can't do this by myself. Okay. I need your help in order to grow. It's just as simple as that. Okay, simple for anybody that is on YouTube and like. And hopefully I did enough to warrant that support. So if not, I understand. But I'm gonna thank you for doing so. If you do feel that it warrants it. Um, so that's it. We're gonna go ahead and close on down our Pega discussions at this time. We're gonna move on to video uploads. So thank you very much for watching, and hopefully I'll catch you next time. I can stop and record right now.